University in Washington. Welcome to the Politics Hour starring Tom Sherwood. I'm Kojo Nandi. Later in the broadcast, a debate between two candidates for the Arlington County Board. One of them, Libby Garvey, is currently chair of the board. Her Democratic primary opponent is Eric Gutschall. Tom Sherwood is our resident analyst. He's a reporter with NBC4 and a columnist with the current newspapers. Tom.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you. Also joining us in studio is Rashawn Baker. He is the county executive for Prince George's County. Mr. Baker, welcome.
Thank you, Coach.
Good to be here. That's the first time I've ever called you Mr. Baker.
It
It doesn't
is.
sound right.
I know, it
really
really
doesn't
threw
even
me off.
Well, we have an election primary coming up here in Washington also on Tuesday, Tom, I guess. And we'll be discussing it here on the show. But I guess the big race people are looking at in the district is probably the Ward 7 race between former Mayor Vincent Gray and the current incumbent, Yvette Alexander, who replaced Mr. Gray in that post.
You know, it's a presidential primary. It's the last presidential primary, and it's almost meaningless, except that people, died for the right to vote. So I do hope people will go vote on Tuesday in that presidential primary. But locally, of the races, the council races, it is Vincent Gray, the former Ward 7 council member who got elected chairman, who then got elected mayor, and then lost in 2014 to Muriel Bowser. Most people agree because of the questions about the shadow campaign scandal, where he was never charged. He's trying to restart his political career. Is he going to do it? Lots of people in the ward think that he has a very strong position. He's gotten lots of union endorsements. He's gotten community endorsements. People tell me Yvette Alexander is a very nice person, a good person, a well-meaning person. But the combination of Gray's ties to his ward, the work he's done as mayor, he was very popular as mayor. It seems that this will be very difficult for her to win. She told me she's fighting to the last moment. And her supporters are very strong for her, that she's a good, decent person. She has not had any serious ethics questions raised about her, and that she deserves another term.
800-433-8850 is the number to call if you have comments or questions for Prince George's County Executive Rashawn Baker. 800-433-8850. You can send email to kojo.wamu.org or tweet at Kojo Show, or go to our website, kojoshow.org. Watch the live video stream, ask a question, or make a comment. One more thing about D.C. elections. The D.C. auditor conducted a survey of our election rolls in the District of Columbia, found that a number of people who had died between the years 2011 and 2014 were still on the voter rolls, and that a number of the living voters in D.C. had their birth dates listed somewhere in the 19th century. What are we, Chicago here?
Well, Mr. Baker's loving this. We got him to. Here's the deal. The auditor office, Kathy Patterson, did a survey, a 19-page report on this, and I did a TV story about it. Over that period of time, they looked at, there was like 273, almost 300 people who had died. They randomly picked 33 people who had died from official records of the city. And they checked to see if they were on the voting rolls. Well, of the 33, all 33 were on there.
100%.
Yeah, 100%. And then they checked and they found like 460, almost 470 exact duplications, that everything was correct about you. You were alive, and but that you were on there twice. And this, again, these are random samples. There's a problem. The city's had a lot of trouble with the Board of Elections. We have 3 brand new members, so you can't fire or fuss at the ones who are there now. They just got there in January. We have an election on Tuesday. We have brand new voting equipment. I voted early.
So did I.
And so the machines are not difficult, but they're not necessarily intuitive. You do this, you do A, B, and C, and you've done it.
Got to press real hard.
You do have to press. That's one of the odd things. Several people said you have to push the button or the screen too hard. And I think there are still paper ballots. But I think the good thing is, though, they are moving ahead. And even the auditor said she thinks this board can fix some of these problems. But they just have, it's a routine thing you get from the medical examiner's office or whoever records the dead people in the city. And you get that list once a month, and you compare it to your voter rolls. I mean, how hard can that be? And the even motor voter, where you just sign up when you get a license. Kathy Patterson told me that hasn't been properly followed since 1993. Oh. And so we have all these people on the rolls. We have 50,000 people registered. We only have 670,000 people in the city.
Well, you're talking about a level of inefficiency. And speaking of which, Metro Safe Track got underway this past weekend and is going to be especially tough for residents of Prince George's County between June 18th and July 3rd, which will see a 16-day closure of the Potomac Avenue and Stadium Armory stations, meaning disruptions on the orange, blue, and silver lines. Prince George's County was taken to task in a recent Greater Washington article, which said that Prince George's County had not taken, quoting here, sufficient steps to help residents get around during these shutdowns. But yesterday, County Executive Rashawn Baker announced a plan. What will the county now be doing?
Well, what the county will be doing is we know this is very serious, and we know that a great number of our residents are going to be their lives are going to be disrupted by this. And from the very beginning, we made sure that our representative on the Metro Board, Malcolm Augustine, was there and advocating to make sure we have a safe Metro line. So the first thing we said yesterday was, our number one priority is to make sure Metro is safe. The other thing is that we, fix the problems once and for all. It's just a real shame that, every other year or every other month, there's something going wrong with Metro. So shutting it down and making sure we can fix the problem is critical. And then the third thing is getting the information out about what we're doing in the county and what the what Metro system is doing. One of the things is we've made people aware that we're going to provide extended service for the bus, which is the county's bus that goes, so that we can get people from the New Carrollton station where we think there's going to be a lot of the problems to the Greenbelt station. The other is, and that would be free for the folks that will be able to get there. And then the information on the other things that are going on, and then we're going to monitor the situation. I mean, this is going to be a disruption, but we're going to do everything we can to make sure people can get back and forth to work. Or as we advised yesterday, as Daryl Mobley, our director, advised, if you can telework, that's something we want you to start thinking about. If there are other plans that, of ways of getting into the city, those who are close enough where they can bike in, the bus system itself, connecting from the bus to the Metro bus system, getting into work. And the last thing I'll talk about is that, we're going to make sure that the HOV restrictions are adhered to. And people will, why do you want to do that? And that's to make sure that we get as many people in those HOVs that they're running the way they should be running. So you don't have an influx of a lot of cars of one single passenger coming in there.
The district has extended rush hour 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes at night with no parking signs. The director of transportation this week, Leif Joe, announced that on any roadways affected by the Metro disruption, there will be there won't be any closing down of lanes for construction or things like that to kind of free up the traffic. Are there things like that you guys also are doing? Yeah,
I mean, we're looking, that's, it's not as big of an issue for us in the county, that, the ability to get in there. It's
all your residents coming to our city. Yes, that's why the problem's here. We're making the way for you.
Yeah, well, we're trying to reverse some of that, but it really is, a number of our folks have gotten used to, and we've advised them to take the Metro, to not drive their cars. And so now what we're finding is, a number of those folks, quite honestly, don't have the ability to drive their cars into DC, whether it's parking or anything else. So our biggest issue, and what they took us to task on, was how do we help them get to the city without having to drive in? And what are the things? So that's why the bus system to us is important. Being able to take people from one site to one of the Metro stops, Green Line, that will be working. And even those folks who need to catch the Metro over to Montgomery County or to Virginia, how do we get forth? And I think for us, with a limited amount of resources, we're taking the task on that. And they said, well, you said you didn't have, all this money. Well, we don't. So one of the things we're going to be doing is using our resources at the county, but we're also going to turn to the state and say, these are residents of the state of Maryland. We need some help.
What about the Federal Transportation Department? Instead of Mr. Fox sitting up in his office complaining about Metro. Why not put some money in to help with this emergency crisis in the Washington region? Now, every elected official since the Metro started can be blamed for not keeping the system up, but now we are in a reaction mode to try to fix the system. Is there any federal money coming for this? I haven't heard of any.
I haven't heard of any, but it's certainly
Hello.
something that we, it's certainly, I'm sure the jurisdictions, whether it's Prince George's County, Montgomery County, or the district, we're looking to the federal partners because this is a partnership between all of our jurisdictions. And that would be helpful because certainly this is an emergency and it's a crisis. And it's one that's going to affect a bunch of folks who need to get into the city.
The Prince George's Hospital. It's been a long saga, and the projected opening date of 2017 has now been pushed back. What's the problem?
The state.
Just
Just say it straight up. Mr.
It really is. I mean, you know, I'll say that, and somebody will, you know, call and say, well, it's the state. Just think about it. It took us, you know, I've been working on this issue for almost 20 years. You know, when I started in the legislature and my hair was black and I had hair, we finally, the most difficult thing throughout this process of the hospital has always been, and you know it, you've covered Prince George's and the state politics. The most difficult thing was getting an agreement between the county, the state, and the University of Maryland medical system. That really was it, because nobody wanted to come in and say what you were going to put in. Once we signed that agreement, which is almost 5 years old, we signed that agreement. Then getting through the CON process and building the
CON,
that's
certificate of need.
Certificate
I know
of
what
need.
that is, but some people don't.
Sounded like a con to me, but go ahead.
The certificate of need, which has to be approved in order to have the hospital finally built. So the biggest issue we thought was money. And I came on this show and I talked about how we were, you know, getting the legislature to put the money in there after the governor refused to put the money in the budget. We got
the big fight, and you won it.
We won it. Lo and behold, a newly appointed member of the Health Commission, who has jurisdiction over our certificate of
Commissioner
need,
Robert E.
Moffett, who must be a genius, you know, because after 5 years of some of the best minds in the Washington region working on the hospital and building a regional facility, he's decided that it costs too much.
And you have too much there, and you ought to cut it by $100 million.
$100 million. What I've said to folks is, first of all, you know, some of the best minds, and I do mean this, have looked at this for 5 years. It is not just a hospital; it's a regional medical center for Prince George's County in the southern part of Maryland. That's Charles County, St. Mary's County, Calvert County. So it's different than the facility that's currently there. The other thing was the idea of this, it's a trauma center. It's the second busiest trauma center in the state. You have Baltimore and you have Prince George's County. And the idea of the facility was to get some of our patients who are now going to the District of Columbia and the doctors who are in the district to come back. That's why the facility was designed the way it is.
The governor didn't particularly want to do this money for this hospital.
No.
So maybe this is a bureaucratic way of achieving the same result. You have Mr. Moffett. I'm not sure all the issues of why he decided that you shouldn't have the size, the number of beds, or the square footage, or the ambulatory care and all that. But, you know, a bureaucratic roadblock is just as good as not giving you money.
It is. And so one of the things we've pressed back to the General Assembly and said, this could stop the hospital from going forward, which means all of the development that's going around downtown Largo could be in jeopardy, simply because and
one person can stop that.
One person could stop it. I mean,
does the state medical board, he's the chair, or is he's it?
He's one of the members there, but he's the person that's assigned to look at our CON. And so what we said to the president of the Senate, certificate of need, what we said to the president of the Senate, Mike Miller, and the Speaker of the House, Michael Bush, and to the governor is, you know, there is no reason to, first of all, a cut of $100 million is not a real cut. Because what you need to build that facility, you're going to have to find that money in there. So it means that the state may not pay it, but maybe they're asking the taxpayers of Prince George's County to pay it. And that's unacceptable.
When do you think this could get resolved? I mean, we won't, calendar year?
Yes. We're definitely gonna resolve it this calendar year. The hospital will be built. And it just means we've got to fight a lot harder.
We're under some time pressure here because of the debate we've got coming up later, and because of an announcement I know that you want to make.
Yes.
But I want to talk about the 6th casino construction underway for the MGM National Harbor Resort, scheduled to open by year's end. But
That's right.
apparently there's already a debate over how to spend the anticipated money. The county's share of the revenue is dedicated for what's called local impact grant funds. According to the Washington Post, you're using it to fund police officers, firefighters at nearby stations, workforce development training, summer youth employment, community grants. But some of the residents of that neighborhood in Oxon Hill and Fort Washington say, no, this money's for us. We need roads. We need sidewalks. What's wrong with you?
Traffic control officer when that thing opens.
It's you. I was here on the show when we were fighting to get this open, and thought nobody in the county actually thought it was a good idea. But now that the money's coming in, everybody has an idea for it. The local impact money is for the money that's gonna impact, and really that goes around public safety. So the police, the fire,
Tow trucks for all the people illegally parked.
Yeah, yeah. But those things that are going to have an impact on the neighbors themselves. The infrastructure issues, are part of our general fund, and it's also part of the money. And we remind folks that this is still a statewide project. So the infrastructure dollars that comes to that casino really come from the portion of the dollars that go to the state, that flow from the casino to the state. It would be unwise of us in Prince George's County to take our local share and pay for 210 or State Road, and we're not going to do that. We're going to make sure that the neighborhoods around there are protected and that the streets that we spend our money on are dealt with.
Is this really just, I thought I read a number, $3.4 million. We're not talking,
No.
I'm sorry, in government sense, we're not talking a lot of money.
It's not a lot of money. It's maybe about 4.5 million. It's
Okay.
not.
Is this
not
an annual amount or is this
Yes.
a one-time shot?
It's an annual amount.
Okay.
And here's Richard in Prince George's County. Richard, you're on the air. Go ahead, please. Put on your headphones also. You can hear what Richard has to say. Go ahead and say it, Richard.
Thank you for taking my call. I'm very elated that Rushion Baker has taken an interest in Metro. It's actually the first time I've ever heard him talk about Metro issues. I'm concerned that we in the county are receiving a disservice in the operation of the 311 number as it relates to any issue, because what happens is you wait 25 minutes, you ask them about Metro, and they say, that's not us. Here, call this number. And then you often get the wrong number, but if they happen to give you a right number, you wait another 25 minutes.
What would you like to happen?
You should authorize, Rushion Baker, you're the county executive, you should require those 311 people, A, to answer the phone, and B, to take any information a citizen of Prince George's County offers and run with it themselves. They have
Okay, allow me to have him respond.
find the correct
Well,
address.
let me assure Richard, you're absolutely right on both of those. This is probably the easiest question I've gotten. 311, the idea is that we would not transfer you to other places and you would wait. So I can tell you one of the things we talked about yesterday was actually making sure that 311 operators know exactly the information that we're going to be giving out. And so you have my word, we'll take care of that.
Do you have enough people answering the phone?
Yeah, I think it's a matter of what he's saying is that it's a matter of having the information on what the coordinated plan was going to be, because it's not just Prince George's County. This is coordinating with Metro itself and with State Highway. And so since the announcement yesterday at the press conference, that information should be available. But I can certainly check that out and make sure we do that.
Alzheimer's is a big cause for you and your family. You've been very public about the fact that your wife suffers from the disease. We are now joined in studio by your daughter, Asia. Hi, Asia. How are you doing?
Hello.
And apparently you want to make an announcement. You were apparently influenced by something that happened on this show.
The media is very influential.
Take off your shirt, Tom Sherwood. Go ahead.
That'll influence somebody.
You know what? Yes, I'm going to have Asia talk, but yes, we saw the tattoo that Tom Sherwood did on, and I think you too.
He joined in.
There you go, District of Columbia.
I'm not showing mine.
Take off your shirt.
And my daughter Asia said to me the other day, said, why don't we do something like that where we raise money for awareness of the Alzheimer's and do what, Asia?
and get matching family tattoos.
Exactly what kind of tattoo will you be getting?
Well, we like to get the Alzheimer's symbol.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I don't. What is that symbol? Is it just? Can you describe it?
Yeah, it's kind of like like two loops,
Right.
and
So
one's
almost like a
like
brain.
upside down.
Mm.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
it's really interesting.
I'm glad you're doing that because my own mom suffered from Alzheimer's when she passed some years ago. So when do you plan on getting these tattoos?
And where?
Yeah.
Where?
I don't mean what building either.
That's a good question.
Now the weird part we're still debating. So it would be myself, my oldest daughter Asia, our youngest daughter Quincy, and our son, my son, who is a little scared of the ink. But the idea
How old is he?
He's 29.
Okay, well, I know one fix for that. It's called bourbon.
So we know he listens to the program, Kojo. So this ropes him in. But I thought it was a great idea when she mentioned it to me, and seeing how much awareness you were able to do about DC statehood. We want to do the same. I mean, it's, as you know, Kojo, it's about research. It's about research and resources, and we want to do that, and so this is something near and dear to our heart.
And how is your near and dear wife doing right
She's
now?
doing well. She listens to you, so we I was telling Asia on the way here how you were her favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much so much.
Good best wishes with that. It's amazing the reach for WAMU. Michael Martinez here and I kind of cooked this whole idea up. I was impressed with people from all over the region who would stop me. I mean, some of them said, can we see your tattoo? And I said, not here. But it's a great thing. Congratulations, best wishes to that. There's so much that needs funding in the medical world of this country. So,
and
I'm glad
Asia, thank you for coming in. And you had to
sure.
do this to persuade your dad to get a tattoo. Huh?
I know. I've been trying to convince him
He has some
forever.
kind of tattoo. I can see the edges of it right
Yeah,
there. What
A
is
little
that?
something.
It's a good cause right now.
Reba
he's getting
McEntire.
tired.
No, it's not. That's a country music.
I know.
Oh, he knows.
Rashawn Baker, he is the county executive for Prince George's County. Thank you so much for joining us. And Asia, thank you for joining us too.
Yes,
Thank you for having
thank
me.
you for coming in.
Coming
Thank
up
you.
next, a debate between two Democratic Party candidates for the Arlington County Board. Libby Garvey is the current chair of the board. Her opponent is Eric Gutschall. You can start calling now with questions or comments for them, 800-433-8850. You can send email to kojo@wamu.org. Shoot us a tweet at Kojo Show or go to our website and watch this debate on our live video stream at kojoshow.org. Tom Shore with the DC Council unanimously approved the $15 minimum wage. It doesn't, of course, all of it take effect until 2020. It would rise to $15 by 2020. They did not do the same for the tipped minimum wage. That would increase from $2.77 an hour to $5 an hour. The district would also remain responsible for paying employees, or that is, employers would be responsible for paying employees the difference between their base pay and minimum wage if tips do not make up the balance.
Well, the politics of this is that with the mayor, the activists are going to put on the November ballot a plan to raise the minimum wage for everybody, including restaurant workers, to $15. And that it would be phased in, but it would still go in effect for everyone. The mayor, the council, business leaders, and unions like John Boardman from Unite Here, Local 25, got together and said, let's just, what can we do? And so the mayor proposed the increase. And then they worked out the details. They lowered the tip wage minimum amount from $7.50 to $5. Vincent Orange, the council, led the legislation in the council, and they passed it. It's a good thing. Some people are worried that the city is going to make itself too expensive with suburban places like Arlington and suburban Virginia and Maryland. The wage will be too high. Virginia is stuck at $7.25, which is the federal wage. It hasn't changed. Prince George's and Montgomery have raised theirs a little, but Maryland has too, but not by much. So is the city going to get too far out on the wage factor? And the city and the people say, no, we're going to phase this in, and everybody's moving to $15 because there's an issue about income inequality in this country.
So we'll have to see how this eventually rolls out. Joining us in studio are the two Democratic Party candidates in Tuesday's primary for the Arlington County Board. Libby Garvey is chair of the board. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Her opponent is Eric Gutschall. He is the owner of Clarendon Home Services. He's vice chair of the Arlington County Planning Commission. Thank you for joining us.
I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Libby Garvey, you've held public office in Arlington for almost 20 years and you're running for re-election. What do you want voters to know about your time serving Arlington?
Well, I think over the past 20 years, I've done a pretty good job serving Arlington. 15 years on the school board, helped make our schools among the best in the country. And in my 4 years on the county board, I've done quite a bit to make our government more responsive and more transparent. One of the things we just started to do, I became chair in January.
This is that it rotates, right? Every
Yes.
year. It's not a permanent thing. You're
No, it's
No, she's not running for chair.
no, I'm not
Okay.
running for. Yeah.
Okay.
But we're elected by our colleagues. And one of the things I did when I first became chair is we started video streaming our work sessions. Up until then, if you wanted to watch the board actually getting the work done at work sessions, you had to sit in the room. And that was hard for a lot of people to do. So now we video stream it and you can watch it live. You can sit in the room, or if you're having trouble sleeping, you can watch it at 1 a.m. if you want. But I think that helps make our government more transparent. It's one of the many things I've been doing.
Eric Gutschall, it's not often that the incumbent Democrat is strongly challenged in an Arlington primary. Why are you running?
Well, I'm running because I think I'm better qualified to make sure that we are meeting the challenges that we face today with solutions for tomorrow. We've got to make long-term strategic investments. We have a capacity crisis in our schools that's in its 6th year, and we still don't have a plan for getting out in front of rising student enrollment. We have to make sure that we're making investments in our transportation infrastructure, and we're dragging our feet on moving forward with the capital improvement plan for doing that. We've got a major issue in Arlington County of housing affordability. It's the issue that's going to define our time and our day. And we are not moving forward in the way that we need to, and the way that I believe that Arlingtonians want to make sure that the middle class does not get squeezed out of Arlington.
Tom Sherwood.
Well, I'd ask Ms. Garvey, that's a pretty damning list of issues. What do you say to that?
I say that when I was on the school board, I first ran on building a new school in South Arlington back in 1996, and that school's there today, Carlin Springs Elementary School. During my time on the schools, we built new, rebuilt, or renovated 15 elementary schools, 4 middle schools, the 3 high schools. I brought online thousands of seats.
But have you done enough? Excuse me for interrupting you. You have a trailer park of trailers in temporary places, and you don't have, to my knowledge, one of the criticisms, you don't have a long-term plan. You've got 3 schools opening soon, next year or whatever, next academic year. What is the long-term plan? You're growing. I mean, the great news is Arlington is bursting at the seams. The bad news is it's bursting at the seams for students. Do you have a long-term plan to go forward, not what's been done in the past?
Well, my long-term plan is actually to be supporting the school board, because I've been on the county board for 4 years. That's really the school board's job, is to come forward to us with plans. I will say that a little over a year ago, the school board came to the county board asking to build a school on the Thomas Jefferson site. And 4 of my colleagues, unfortunately, thought that it needed more of a community process. I was the one vote to go ahead and move forward with that. And a year later, the whole board moved to move forward. And we lost a whole year in that process. I have always been supportive of moving our schools forward and getting the work done.
The school board has actually twice now unanimously asked that the county board move forward with the blueprint laid out in the community facility study, which is how we move forward with a comprehensive plan that would include collaboration between the school board and the county board. Twice the school board has asked the county board to do this, and the chair is dragging her feet on moving forward.
She's dragging her feet, why do you think she's dragging her feet?
Well, I think she ought to answer for that.
Well,
I mean,
why
do I think
because she doesn't know what she's doing, or you think she's got a different agenda? I mean, if you tell me someone's dragging their feet, you ought to have an idea why.
Fair point. I think that she's dragging her feet because she fundamentally does not see the value of community input. She believes that the community is an obstacle that should be worked around, that needs to be managed somehow. I believe that the community, and this was the result of the community facility study, that when you include the community, that's how you get to answers that don't blow up in your face. Right now, we have a petition out there by a group of citizens with 1,000 signatures asking for a 4th comprehensive high school. Why? Because they don't have any confidence that our government has a plan for how to make sure that we provide the seats for the coming bubble in the high school population.
Well, would you plan it to death, or if you were to be elected, and would you move? How quickly would you move to to get the schools properly balanced with your growing county?
Well, we need to, I would hope that it wouldn't wait until I took office on January 1 to move forward with the implementation of the community facility study. But moving forward, what we need to do is we need to make sure that we're having a conversation with the school board, and we're going to miss the opportunity on this CIP right now, the capital improvement plan. Capital improvement plan. I know you like to point out acronyms.
Yes, I do.
We're missing that opportunity in this year, but we need to get in front of it then for 2 years from now. But we can't even wait for then. So we need to move forward on laying out a comprehensive plan where all seats, elementary, middle school, high school, all neighborhoods, north, south, east, and west, are accounted for.
Libby Garvey, you stand accused of dragging your feet.
I'm not dragging my feet. When I first knew I was going to be chair of the county board, I called up my friend Emma Violan Sanchez, who's chair of the school board, and said, Emma, let's start meeting every month. And so we have leadership meetings every month with the chair, vice chair, superintendent of both boards, manager and superintendent. I just had coffee with Emma yesterday morning, and we were talking about the capital improvement program. She was telling me that the school board is moving forward, asking probably to move up some of their projects. And would I be okay with that? Because with that, or would my board be all right with that? And I said, I think so. We will work it through, because what that's going to mean is that we may have to not do some of our projects, postpone them so that the schools can move up their projects. And
What
I have said,
project would you postpone?
we'll have to see when we get there. We have a number of projects up there. So, perhaps we've got community centers. I think probably community center can wait a little bit to bring a school online. I also said that we're just willing to be flexible and talk about it. We're fine for the next year because the capital improvement program, the first, the 2016 part of it that's the bond, and that's actually what we're going to do. That's the plan. We're good there. It's the out years where it starts getting a little tighter, and I have said publicly and privately to my colleagues on the school board, I'm very willing to look at that, and I think the board is, because we realize it's
questions
important.
for either of these candidates, 800-433-8850. In more general terms, you've gotten flack from some Democrats for quote-unquote going your own way on issues and for supporting a Republican over the Democratic candidate in a board race. There are also voters who seem to appreciate your being independent-minded. You don't have a problem being cast that way. Where do you break with fellow Democrats, and would you consider running as an independent?
No, I'm a Democrat. I've always been a Democrat. I mean, what Democrats believe is that everybody should do their fair share, everybody gets a fair chance, and everybody plays by the same rules. That's part of the reason my husband and I went into the Peace Corps. That was my first job out of college, was teaching English in Africa. I have worked in education. I have always worked to make the world a better place for everybody. That's what it's all about, being a Democrat. And the only times I have broken with the party, this was one instance. I'm 65 years old. I have always supported Democrats. This was one specific race over one specific issue. I'd known John Weisstat for years. I sat him down before I said I would support him to go over social issues to make sure that we agreed on them. And as I assumed, we did. He's been a good board member. He had the support of a lot of Arlingtonians and a lot of Democrats. Local issues really should not be partisan. Our own Governor Terry McAuliffe vetoed a bill just recently and said that partisan politics really should play no role in local politics because it's too divisive. There's not a Republican or a Democratic way to fill potholes. We just need to get the work done for people. Maybe some people do.
Find it, one they won't.
Yeah.
But
we want to get done with that.
You've done your career was virtually on the school board. This is you're completing your first term on the Arlington board. Who supports you? I mean, you talked about endorsements for Mr. Weisstat. Who's one of the criticisms I've heard is you have very few endorsements from either the current board or from the school board itself. That you are such a go it alone type person that it's difficult to bring about the partnership that you talk about.
Well, I've always been a team builder and building networks actually around the state and across party lines. I'm proud to have the support not only of John Weisstat on the board, but of Carla Della Pava, our treasurer, Theo Stamos, our Commonwealth's attorney, a number of former school board members, and other former elected officials. But if you look on my website, I really am very honored to have the testimonials of a lot of people who are leaders in different parts of the community. Anish Chopra, who was the former technology officer for the president. And then finally, the real endorsement that I am seeking and want is the endorsement of the voters of Arlington County. That's the endorsement that I want.
Well,
I hope to have on Tuesday.
Well, I think every politician would like to have that, but you have a lot of various endorsements, but that does seem like a fairly decent list. How do you respond to her list there?
Well, when she says she has a number of endorsements from former school board members, that she has 2, and I have 8. So I think that when we're talking about who's working with the schools, these are people who have public servants who have been working with Ms. Garvey over the last 20 years, who it's a vote of no confidence. And they see that I've got the energy and the ideas to move us forward. I'm not running for the past, I'm running for the future. And I'm running to make sure that Arlington County is meeting our challenges. And I have a wide range of endorsements, both from current and former electeds, over 22 current and former electeds, who understand that I'm going to move things forward and get things done. And that's what Democrats do, to go to the original question.
I was
Democrats
about to say,
get things
do
done.
you break with your fellow Democrats on any issue at all?
I
Because that's what Ms. Garvey is accused of.
Well,
doing.
respectfully, Kojo, I reject the premise of that question, because I think there's no such thing as a Democratic Party line. I don't break with Democrats because there's opportunity to have legitimate policy disagreements. I know Democrats who are for the streetcar, and I know Democrats who are against the streetcar. I know Democrats who are for the baseball stadium and Democrats who are against the baseball stadium. But the baseball stadium was contentious, but it didn't become divisive, because we didn't have leaders who sought to exploit that issue. We had leaders who brought us together after the decision was made.
And could I just do
Yeah,
a real
no,
quick?
please go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, I just want to say I have actually 5 former school board members, if we're really counting. But again, the real supporting me, the real vote, the real endorsement that counts is the people of Arlington County, who I've been serving for 20 years now.
I want to get Gary in Arlington, Virginia, on the air. Gary, you are on the air. Go ahead, please.
Thanks, Kojo, and thanks for having this issue. I just wanted, there was a statement about the bubble in high school. Arlington County's demographers project an increase of 40,000 people. That's almost a 20% population increase over the next 15 years. Since 2010, we added 13,000 people and 7,000 housing units. And in 2015, the board approved 3,747 new housing units on top of the redevelopment of existing properties.
Okay.
So I believe Mr. Gutschall has been on the planning commission. Did they have a plan? I don't know. I think yesterday he said he was against a 4th new high school. It's hard to see how we catch up to this trend line if we don't do bigger projects than the ones we've had. And this year, or in the fall, based on enrollments, we're supposed to have over 4,000 more kids than we had 5 years ago. But we have an APS school forecast that says we're only going to add 4,000 over the next 10 years.
So your question is to Mr.
Gutschall?
Gutschall?
Well, to both of them. So how are we going to actually increase the rate of school construction to catch up? Or is the county going to cut back on approving housing units if they're not going to go buy the
First,
land
you,
on
Mr.
the
Gutschall.
school construction to keep up?
Yeah, so first off, I am definitely not against the 4th high school. I never said that, and that's not the point of my
What
statement.
did you say?
What I did say is that I am for getting out of this whack-a-mole approach, piecemeal approach that we've been doing, which is the whole point of the collaboration between the school board and the county board. The school board cannot move forward with the comprehensive plan when they don't know what land and what financial resources are going to be available to them. They can only operate right now under the assumption that property they already own is what's in play. We have got to answer the caller's question, Gary's question, we've got to be creative. We've got to look at all of the opportunities, lay all the cards on the table. That's multi-use facilities. That's working with perhaps some public-private partnerships, working with our universities in our area. Marymount and Virginia Tech have a strong private presence in the county and have expressed some interest. We're going to have to be very creative, but we are going to have to get out in front of the problem and stop kicking the can down the road.
When you say all of that,
housing,
what do you mean specifically in terms of school construction and school expansion? When you say getting out in front of
Getting
the
out in
problem.
front, yes, we're going to have, we have projections of how many seats we have a deficit for. We don't have a plan right now that accommodates all of those seats. We have a plan right now that has a lot of TBDs in the spreadsheet, to be determined, and we need to fill those TBDs in. And the way we do that is moving forward where we have this, the collaboration and the specific recommendation, and this is, to me, is the answer, and that Ms. Garvey is dragging her feet on, is that you're going to have a joint committee that's going to have 2 school board members, 2 county board members meeting together in public. And that's the key thing. The current chair of the school board is a fine public servant. I consider her a friend as well. She has not endorsed the chair. They might be having coffee together, but that's not how we're going to get to the plan. that everyone can have confidence in that we've got a total solution.
Can we, and
Could I-
well, go ahead. Go ahead and respond.
Yeah, I just want to
Then
thank Gary for his.
housing.
I want to thank Gary for his question. And what I have said is that I will be supportive of what recommendations the school board brings to us. I know with my time on the school board, I used to get upset when the county board would try to tell us how to do our work, and constitutionally, really, the county board cannot do that. When we designed the high schools, when I was on the school board, we put flexibility into those buildings. So, and what the school board is doing now is, with a few modifications, getting 300 more seats in each one of those buildings. That's 900 more seats that we built into those when we were planning. We had to have flexibility. When it comes to land, the board last year tended to be kind of concerned when the school board was looking at different parcels of land, and this board has said to the school board that they can go ahead and look at pretty much everything. We're planning a meeting actually, either I hope this summer. It may not be till September, where we're going to meet with the school board and go over all of the different land that we have, that private developers have, that they have, and talk about it. It probably will be in closed session because it may be about purchasing property, but we're going to sit down and do that, and that plan is already in the works. Clearly, we need to work together. And the 2x2 that Mr. Gutschall keeps talking about, we have actually agreed to do that as a board, but meetings aren't what gets the work done. It's actually getting the work done and having plans. I invite anybody to actually look at the school board presentation that they gave to us in our work session, and that will show some of the plans that they have out, and the county board is totally supportive of what the school board is going to come to us and ask for.
I've always found, as reported, that developers already know about what lands are being discussed in private by government officials. It'd be better, it seems to me, if you'd have those public discussions. I know the issues where you don't want the price of the land to go up and all of that. But I never have met a developer who's surprised by what the city or government or county or state's talking about. Where does housing fit? We talk about a growing county, a very popular county. Millennials are flocking to Arlington. They're looking for places to live, more than 300 square foot places. How do housing and development figure in this campaign? Well, she's doing a good job there. She isn't. I mean, you're challenging her.
It is. As we said earlier, what we have here is we have a problem that's created by our success, right? Everybody wants to be here, so that's a good thing. Rising property values, that's a good thing. But we need to make sure that we are keeping an eye on what we can do for the problem that is facing them and the risk of squeezing out the middle class. So what I've been talking about is what's called the missing middle. This is the idea that where you have medium density, not the high-rise density, the high density of our metro corridors, and not the low density that we're in our single family neighborhoods that we've protected, but in between that, the missing middle, where we would have opportunities, for example, along Lee Highway and Glebe Road and other major arterials served by transit, where you can, right now, you might see a lot of old strip malls, used car lots, basically underutilized land. We can look at our zoning ordinance. We can open up opportunities for developers to come in and create different housing choices for young families just starting out, for seniors that want to age in the community.
Excuse me for interrupting. People always get mad at, I've got Twitter things, tell Sherwood to stop interrupting. That's a good policy, but are you saying Ms. Garvey has not been doing that, or doesn't have that as part of her life?
What I'm saying is it's an idea that I've been talking about on this entire campaign. It's something that we've been talking about on the Planning Commission, and I have not heard Ms. Garvey endorse the idea. I'm not
Ms. Garvey, as he's pointing out, there's disagreement over how Arlington should grow. There's the desire to preserve single-family neighborhoods, he mentioned, on the one hand. Also, the desire to create more density around metro corridors. He talks about a missing middle. What are you talking about?
Well, I don't think there really is a disagreement. We adopted affordable housing master plan last year, and we are working on implementing that. I was actually just at the groundbreaking yesterday for Columbia Hills, which is a project that will have 229 affordable units when it is complete. So we've been moving forward on that. Recently, when our staff asked us about implementing the plan, they said they wanted to move forward on accessory dwelling units, which is like granny flats is what we call them. And the board, actually, all of us said, wait, no, that's not what we need to concentrate on. We need to concentrate on looking at our zoning and what we can do to preserve the existing affordable housing that we have. In the area of Westover right now, there are a number of buildings that are affordable, and they're getting bought up and turned into townhouses. That's the concern. And we need to look at zoning, and we need to look at ways of encouraging our partners. We have a number of partners that build affordable housing to be able to purchase them and keep them. I am totally committed to this. I talk about an economic ladder, which I think any healthy community has. house, and that's got the bottom rungs all the way to the top, both for housing and for living. And you need to support that ladder. One of the many things we also need to look at, which government can do, is there's not just housing. People who are having trouble affording their housing are having trouble affording transportation and childcare. And I think we need to make Arlington affordable for living. And I'm also working on trying to find more ways to support childcare. I think that can help, and obviously improve transit so that people can get around without a car.
Well, can I ask a quick on that subject before you go to the call? I was talking to someone in Arlington today, and they were telling me about the senior tax exemption for homeowners, about 1,000 people who have a deferred or reduced tax, and that you have suggested that you might get rid of that tax.
Yeah, this was
that program.
Mm-hmm. This was taken out of context in our budget work session looking at housing. We realized we have two programs for seniors. One is a tax deferral, and when the house is sold, the taxes are paid and the taxes are recouped. The other is a complete exemption, so that should the owner die and the house pass to their heirs, the taxes are never paid. And I am a little concerned that perhaps that's a windfall to people that we're trying to help seniors stay in their home, not necessarily their families. And it was actually all 5 of us asked staff to look at it, and we're starting a study group because there may be unintended consequences. I absolutely want seniors to be able to stay in their homes if they want to, and to stay in Arlington because they help build this community. So that's something that was just completely taken out of context.
Okay, what about that?
Yeah, so listeners can go to arlingtonfacts.com. We've very, very well documented all of the claims that we've made in any of our mailers, in particular this one. And if anybody takes the time to go and listen to the video, we provide a link directly to it. And I've had multiple people, both supporters and frankly, those who are not supporting me, who contacted me about this. And after they went and listened to the video, they came back and said, yeah, without question, there is no mistake when you watch that video what the intent of the chair is. So she's trying to walk it back because this became a major issue. I'm very proud of the fact that my campaign brought this to the forefront. The fact of the matter is...
Oh, I'm sorry. I did not know you brought it to the forefront. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. We did bring it to the forefront because we thought it was an important issue and an important distinction, that we know that most seniors will not take the deferral option. They would rather sell their homes and leave the county because they don't want to leave their family with the huge tax bill. And if you're living with your parents, for example, your mom, and she passes away and you inherit the house, if you can't come up with the cash to pay for this tax bill, you'll be forced to sell the house to pay the taxes. And these are low-income families, so that's not an unlikely scenario. So the point is how we serve the most
program. Is there an income?
Yes, it is. It's means tested. There's an income and it's income and asset cap.
So I'd like to say my colleague Christian Dorsey, who was on the board, actually called out Eric for taking this all out of context and misrepresenting it. So if you're going to visit Eric's site, I'd ask that you visit my site as well, libbygarvey.com, and you might want to watch the entire video, not just a clip.
Here is Don in Arlington, Virginia. Don, your turn.
Hi, so I have 2 questions for Eric. I was on the facilities committee for the school board for I think about 6 years, and so we dealt a lot with the lack of
what?
Being overcrowded.
Okay, we don't have much time left.
And so my question is, why isn't he running for the school board instead of the county board? Because the school board is really the one that drives the decisions. The county board just approves the budget that's requested. And the second one is he's in favor of a 4th high school. Where in the world would he put it?
Eric Gutschall?
So the point is that I've talked about a lot besides schools, but schools is a major issue. And the fact of the matter is, as I said, the school board has twice now asked the county board to collaborate with them. So it is a county board issue too, because there has to be the collaboration to identify the resources in the land. And what I've said, just to be clear on the 4th high school, is I'm not taking a position for or against it. I'm taking the position that that is a school board issue, and the way that it gets decided is in a public process. The problem that we've been having with our whack-a-mole approach here is that every time you propose where something ought to go, communities get upset because they're worried about transportation impacts. They worry about walkability to their schools. They worry about boundary changes. But I believe that when you include the entire community in a comprehensive solution, when people can understand, families can understand how their individual compromise fits into a total solution, that we will find that you get much more broad-based consensus. So whether the 4th high school, a comprehensive high school, is the right answer or not, I think we need that process to get to that answer. And I will support the school board and the community in whatever process comes up and make sure the county board is providing the resources to make it happen.
This is the politics hour. How many people are going to vote in the election on Tuesday? You're the only thing on the ballot. I asked, and I'm surprised there's nothing else. It's this race is on the ballot. Will people turn out? Somebody's suggesting you'll get from 8 to 12,000 voters. What's the voter turnout game? That's not a secret.
No, it's no secret. I actually want as many people as possible to vote. And last year there were 6 people running and fewer than 10,000 people voted. This race has been getting a lot of interest, so I think 8 to 12 is probably a good estimate. We're working hard to get as many people as possible. This is very significant. This is, again, I have a record of 20 years public service, helped make the county what it is today, and it is a wonderful place to live, work, and raise a family. We are really moving forward on a lot of fronts in transparency and responsiveness and government service. I would like to have another 4 years. I think people realize that this is an important election, so hopefully more people will come out and vote, because this is what our community is all about.
I'm hoping
and that's
for
kind of a
record
final
turnout.
statement, and we're running out of time. So what would be your final?
I would love for us to have record turnout in this election. This is extremely important for the future of Arlington County. And the more turnout we have, and in particular, the more Democrats that turn out, and I would say to all Democrats out there, if you want to make sure that your Democratic nominee is chosen by Democrats, you got to come out and vote Tuesday, June 14th.
Good. Well, here's Clara in Arlington, Virginia, who has a question that should be very easy for both of you to answer. Clara, your turn. You've got about a minute.
Okay, my
We have a
question
minute
is for both of you, and that is regarding the airplane noise and the helicopter noise that has steadily increased over North Arlington for the past 5 years. What are both of your plans to address that issue?
You each have about 20 seconds. First, you, Mr. Gutschall.
Well, we do have a Citizens Advisory Commission on that, and I think that they work very hard, and we're in constant negotiations with the Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority. And it's basically about regional compromise and making sure that the community is heard, but we understand the economic importance of airports to our economy.
It's about building political coalitions. I've held a couple of community meetings to get the information there, and that actually prompted MWA to start a meeting. But we've got to be working with the airlines. One of the things that's helping us, we've cut back on the MD-80s. They were the worst. They're still flying some of them out of national, but we'd like to cut way back. They make a lot of noise. This is a huge issue, and I've been working on it for a while. It will take a while to solve.
And this is a problem for all
Arlington
3
County
jurisdictions.
She's running for re-election in Tuesday's Democratic primary. Thank you for joining us. Good luck to you.
Thank you for having us.
Eric Gutschall is the owner of Clarendon Home Services. He's vice chair of the Arlington County Planning Commission. He's also running in Tuesday's primary. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
That's it for the show today, but remember, we've got lots more for you online. Earlier this week, Pulitzer Prize-winning fashion critic Robin Givhan from the Washington Post defined what is a fashion risk for us. It's knowing what expectations are and simply refusing to follow them. Producer Taylor Burney asked what it means for her personally. You can hear her response and more of their conversation on style in DC and beyond at kojoshow.org/blog. Have a great weekend. Be sure to meet us back here Monday at noon as DC gears up for primary elections on Tuesday. We stop to ask voters if they feel their choices truly matter. Plus, DC Schools Chancellor Kaya Henderson will be in studio exploring everything from her plans to open a new school for young men of color to the system's efforts to keep students safe from violence. That's all coming up Monday at noon. Until then, Tom Sherwood, you have a great weekend.
You too, everyone.
And thank you all for listening. I'm Kojo Nnamdi.